Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna do a big bite with you.
Oh, I'm gonna do a big bite with you.
Cheers, my boy.
Cheers, my boy. Oh. Finally, the show can begin. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. When you watch this show, you know how much fun I have planned for you for 2 hours in the morning. Good morning, patriots, dissidents, some of you, alt-right, fascists, sexists, misogynists, racists. Nah. You are the worst. You are the reason society is collapsing. Let's get that bonus content today. Thanks, Y2 Joe. Let's get it going. Let's get it started. Let's get retarded in here. It's Wake Up America. I'm Austin Petersen. Today is August the 20th. This month is just flying by. And while the country snoozes under a blanket of student loan forgiveness and TikTok slang, you, that camera, this one, yes. You beautiful sons and daughters of liberty. You're here with me, sharpening your minds like tomahawks. What was that video we just saw? Those were some influencers who were making a video in a restaurant in Texas and a vehicle crashed right into them. Apparently everybody hates influencers these days. I get annoyed by them too. Unsuspecting food bloggers. I love that the tripod didn't go anywhere. Nice to see Drew Van Runkle, Y2 Joe, Evan Rowan, Quest Fanning, Derek Mollier hanging out in the chat. BB for Liberty. Everybody's ready to rock. Have we clicked the like button yet? Now, I got a Skibidi show for you today, guys. Now, what does that mean? Austin, I'm Generation X. You were ripping on us the other day. What does Skibidi mean? Apparently, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. Gets the people going. It doesn't mean anything. Skibidi is going to be inserted into the Cambridge Dictionary. Apparently, the fact that it doesn't mean anything doesn't mean that the Cambridge Dictionary isn't going to put it into the dictionary. So Skibidi, skibbity doo dah, skibbity yay. That'll get you canceled from the studio that made it. Wonderful feeling, wonderful day, or am I just Delulu? Let me just, you know what? I'm going to call Steffi my Tradwife. Steffi, my darling, you are now part of the English language, my sweet little Tradwife, Skibidi. So we've gone from Shakespeare to short attention span theater. That's the thing. Everybody has to, you can't, I try and introduce people I love to Shakespeare, but they're like, I would like to watch 7-second reels now. It's like, okay, well, Dad Bod Baboon and Joni Rankin just walked in the door. Come on in, sit down. Right, we do all this amazing introduction and stuff, and you guys just want to come in late? Okay, I guess we'll allow it. Segment two today. After we talk about Skibidi and short attention spans, what that means for our culture collapse and maybe our comeback, because maybe there is a sign that when words are this dumb, that people are actually hungry for meaning again. And I will speak the speech I pray you trippingly on the tongue. But if you mouth it as if you mouth it as your players do, then I'd as leaf the town crier, not as soon. I'd as leaf the town crier spoke my lines, right, Joni? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Talking Shakespeare, not Skibidi. Let's not be Delulu. Maybe we'd all be better off if we had a good Tradwife. Segment 2, we're going to talk about something that does make sense, okay? We're going to talk about American instinct, you know, the deep primal reflex that we have here by being born in America. If somebody touches my stuff, I touch their soul with a closed fist. And I touched it with a closed fist and a Seiken, Gyakuzuki, followed by Maegeri and an Uramawashigeri.
Bow to your sensei.
Bow to your senseis. Yeah. A mom of 8 from North Carolina, God bless her, she tracked down a pickpocket using AirPods. I kid you not. She was able to use AirPod technology to catch a pickpocket. She held on like it was a Chick-fil-A drive-through line. Here it is. Oh, no, wait. There's a lot of videos of... I've got the actual video somewhere. I'll have to play it for you when we talk about it on the segment today. Here it is. We're going to compare this to the Paris Olympics, where French authorities actually had to step in and tell Americans to stop beating up pickpockets. Imagine that. The cops trying to protect criminals from us, Americans. The best around. We're going to talk about why Americans don't alert the authorities. We are the authorities, or at least we used to be. We're going to discuss that on the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have all of our friends hanging out in the chat. Let's start that rant rate. Y2 Joe did, and we appreciate him for that. So we've raised $5 towards the $75 goal so far. At 8 o'clock this morning, so much good stuff for you guys. Judge Napolitano joins us to break down Trump's recent push to federalize police departments. Spoiler alert, he's against it. The judge's latest column is pretty fire. He warns that even if the intention is good to clean up the crime-ridden cities, if you trample the Constitution in the process, then we're just trading criminals in hoodies for criminals in suits. And in this economy, folks, that's called a lateral move. So at 8:30 a.m., we're going to wrap up the main show. Today's show is friggin' special. We have got a full-blown Latin American Liberty Summit going on today. For those who are interested in what happens with Fidel Castro, the Castros, the Perones, the Kirchners, what happens in South America impacts what happens in the United States. Don't roll your eyes at me. Somebody yesterday is mad. They're like, who cares about any of this stuff? I understand America. There are a lot of Americans who don't give a shit. That for them, America first means America only, and I don't have to think about what happens overseas. That's fine. But for the rest of us, we're going to pay attention to what happens south of the border because you know a lot of that shit's coming north. And we want to be like, unless it's liberty, in which case, ring the bells of liberty, Javier Milei. Let them ring out. In Bolivia, where they kicked socialism to the curb. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Given Evo Morales' her Marxist party the electoral equivalent of a swirly. I need a toilet flushing. Skibidi toilet. They got just 3% of the vote in Bolivia. Even Joe Biden polls better than that after a stair climb. Bring on the big booty Latinas. Thank you, Dad Bod. So we're going to ask them, Tony Martinez and Mailyn Salabarria, who are going to be joining us as a panel today, 2 guests at the same time. This is what you get when you get fiber internet on the show. Right, very nice. So at 8:30 today, we're going to have a Latin American Liberty Summit. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to that. So you can't miss the second hour. It's the Judge and then the Liberty Summit. So you got that. And then we got Americans beating up pickpocket videos here in the first hour. Just so much fun. You do not want to miss that. And guys, we missed the bonus content yesterday. Do you know what that means? That means bye-bye to all of that. You never get to see it. Don't do that today. You want to unlock the bonus content. We've got a very special guest joining us today on the show. If we unlock the bonus content, the national bird, the actual national bird today, a bald eagle, is going to land in our studio to deliver a special message. And he's got a few choice words for Joy Reid, who's now claiming that Trump, Elvis, and every white conservative man is just a mediocre thief stealing culture from black and brown people. Oh, no, where's my Maury Povich?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Yes, it does, Norm. The actual national bird will be here to respond to Joy Reid with facts, feathers, and maybe a little hot sauce on the side. How do we unlock the bonus content? Well, when we hit $75 in Rumble rants or purchases at thegriftshop.com, the first layer of our bonus content unlocks. You get to see our mini documentary. We had one yesterday about California's gun laws being overturned, but that disappears forever. And we have a brand new mini documentary today, which I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if we hit the $75, you will see that mini documentary. Watch that instead of commercials when we have Judge Napolitano on the break. And then at $100, that is when you unlock the screeching bald eagle here to respond to Joy Reid. And so if we want to get those bonuses unlocked, what you do is you either make a Rumble rant like Y2 Joe did, thank you, or you can visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. And if you go to thegriftshop.com, then that will, any purchase that's made during the live show will count towards the $100 unlock. Can we do it? Let's do it.
Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is here. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, I have to ask you a question that everybody's wondering about. Why do you wear jeans when you work out?
Well, I just started doing that a long time ago because I would go hiking in the morning and then I'd go straight to the gym. And I found it was convenient, and now I'm used to it, so I just do it.
Okay. There were a lot of theories, but that makes perfect sense. So I misread the challenge. I got up in the morning, and I thought you do 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in 5 minutes. So I tried it in 5 minutes and I failed. And then I came into the office and I heard I had an extra 5 minutes. So I know I can do it. I just needed a little bit more time. How long did it take you?
I got 5 minutes and 48 seconds.
Oh my God.
And Pete got 5 minutes and 25 seconds.
That's not fair. Wait, that's not fair, man. RFK's juicing. He's on the stuff. You can't be on the... He's taking testosterone. I mean, the guy is roided out. That is a man who loves Big Pharma. Let me tell you, he may not love Big Pharma in public, but it's like he's a anti Big Pharma in the streets, and he is pro Big Pharma in the sheets. You know what I'm saying? This guy. That's not natty.
That Marine woman that you filmed, she got 3 minutes and 46 seconds.
Get out of here.
And one of the Marines got 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So, but I really wanted to see what you do. And I think, Jesse, if you could put it, post it on TikTok or X, the actual film of you doing it. And then it will make it easier for us all to check your style.
To believe me is what you're saying. Okay. I'll see what I can do and we'll put it up on.
Yeah. Well,
Secretary.
Jesse Waters. See what Jesse looks like on the juice. It'd be gigantic. All right, so it's official. The English language is now fluent in TikTok. As of this week, the Cambridge Dictionary, which was actually at one time they were considered to be a pillar of scholarly respectability, they're basically now Urban Dictionary with better fonts. And they've added the words Skibidi, Tradwife, and Delulu. Yes, Skibidi. This is a word that sounds like it was created by a toddler playing with a broken remote. Right? Skibidi. Sounds like Hazel when she's like making up words and talking to us now. Skibidi. So this is a word that exploded thanks to a series of animated YouTube videos featuring, oh, you can guess it, human heads popping out of toilets. This is not. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. Quite chop-fallen. We're not talking Shakespeare. We're not talking even... This isn't even Dr. Seuss. This is more like Salvador Dali on acid and a TikTok algorithm, and they all had a baby during a meth bender. Skibidi. Skibidi. Give me the meth. Skibidi. Meth. Skibidi meth. Skibidi toilet meth. Then there's another word. This is Delulu, which is short for the word delusional. This was originally a jab made at K-pop fangirls who thought that they were going to marry their favorite idol. Now it's a vibe. K-pop, I know what you're saying. What the hell? Some of you are down with the sickness. K-pop, Korean pop. Whenever we go to the local sushi restaurant, I love sushi in Jefferson City. They've always got the K-pop videos, and people are like, "It's Japanese." I'm like, it's Korean. Excuse me. Every once in a while, a Japanese video will come up. I'm going to retire at 35 years old by investing in Dogecoin and selling Etsy candles. Delulu is the Salulu. I'm going to retire at 55 and sell forlibertyshop.com for $1.5 million. Stephanie, sure, Austin, let's get you to bed. Thank you, Drew Van Runkle says Skibidi was created by the Illuminati at the last Bohemian Grove meeting. Awesome. So we are at $5 raised towards the $75 and $100 bonus goal, guys. Thanks so much for those generous donations. Keep them coming. We're very grateful for that. And finally, where's my sweetheart, my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Steffi? Where is she? And our sweet little baby. Where's the baby? I'm just a baby. Tradwife. This is the other term that we're talking about. A term for women who stay home. They raise kids. And they also cook dinner for their husbands. But it's treated as a slur in elite circles because in 2025, dressing modestly and packing your husband's lunch is more controversial than drag queen story hours for toddlers. The Cambridge Dictionary's lexical program manager, which is a job that I didn't know existed until yesterday, lexical program manager said we only add words where we think they'll have staying power. Somehow I don't believe them. Don't worry. I'm sure that Skibidi is going to age like fine wine right next to YOLO, On Fleek, and Charlie Bit My Finger. You think people will still be saying... I said Charlie bit my finger the other day in the British accent and everything, and I was playing Call of Duty, Black Ops. A kid had no clue what I was talking about. Skibidi toilet, Charlie bit my finger. But here's the real takeaway, because language is downstream from culture, and if the dictionaries are filled with nonsense, irony, and absurdity, what does that say about our national consciousness, and how will the future people that we evolve into after we all do genetic designer babies and we turn into ligers and we can no longer, we're like ligers, the lion and the tiger mated and it makes some kind of genetic super freak animal, but then the animal can't breed and it just is like, kill me, kind of like my French bulldogs. Kill me. I mean, you can't build civilization. I'm such a weirdo. You can't build a civilization on vibes. Can you imagine having me sit in the White House making jokes like that as president? I would have been serious, obviously, but I mean, behind the scenes, I would have been like, cracking jokes about Emmanuel Macron's wife, just enough to not get me sued. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's fun. It is funny. So, you can't build civilization entirely on vibes. You can't structure philosophy around Delulu. And if Skibidi is our cultural export to the rest of the world, then I'm pretty sure the Mayans were right. We are overdue for collapse. Now, not every slang word is evil. This isn't like, oh, get off of my lawn, you young people with your Skibidi toilets, right? But when you start replacing meaning with memes or truth with trendiness and grammar with gimmicks, you kind of start to lose your ability to think. And that's not just annoying, that's dangerous, because if you can't describe reality because you don't live in it, you can't really defend reality because you don't know what reality is. You're the prisoner in Plato's cave. And if all your words are fake, then your freedom is next. Skibidi, nonsense. Origin came from a meme of a guy's head sticking out of a toilet. Delulu means that you're delusional by choice. Austin, gonna make a For Liberty Network podcast network succeed. Gonna raise $100 bonus content today so you can feed your family and make more Skibidi toilet segments. Austin, you're Delulu. Tradwife, traditional wife, especially on social media, my sweet Steffi. Broligarchy, another Cambridge definition, dictionary edition. Broligarchy, which is a tech-based oligarchy of bros. This is what lefties say people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and others are doing. They're creating a broligarchy because they're all bros, and we don't like bros. We hate white people like Joy Reid hates white people. The Bald Eagle bonus content today will respond to Joy Reid accusing white men of not having culture. Another dictionary term that was added, mouse jiggler, which is a tool to fake working remotely. Mouse jiggler. Have you guys seen this? Because so many remote workers are stepping away from the job. The mouse jigglers are the people who, and they have whole machines set up where you can actually physically put your mouse on the machine and it will roll around in certain, it will roll the mouse around for you. They also have software programs that do this, but companies can detect them. But so if you're a mouse jiggler, that means that you are faking that you are working remotely. And then another term that was put in was to the Cambridge Dictionary, work spouse. A work spouse. That is a close office partner, non-romantic. Yes. Have you ever worked in an office setting with someone ostensibly of the opposite sex, but we are libertarians, and you called them your work wife or your work husband, and maybe you were still married, and it sounds like the kind of thing on the surface that people would be like, oh, we need to be jealous about, and maybe some of them have turned into office romances for all we know, but I specifically had a work wife at a corporate office setting, and it wasn't that we were like husband and wife, but it's just that we were such good partners that it was like whenever something needed to be done, we would partner up and get it done. So I was her work husband. She was my work wife, and never did we ever, make out or do anything like that. Work spouse. That one makes the dictionary. Skibidi origin. That's from Skibidi Toilet, the surreal YouTube series called by a group named Dafook and Boom. 2 billion TikTok views on Delulu. Delulu is the Salulu. Delulu is the Salulu. But why would being Delulu be the Salulu? Does that make sense? And the Tradwife trend emerged in the 2020s, now widely debated, celebrated by conservatives, ridiculed by mainstream media, and made the subject of much social media posting. Lots of Tradwife boobies out there, if you look. It's kind of a fetish. Thank you to Joni Rankin, became a monthly sub. Now you can hang out with us on the Freedom Arcade on Friday nights. We're going to have a fantastic Freedom Arcade show on Friday nights. That's when Stephanie and I hang out with you guys personally and play some video games. You get to be a part of the show. You get to be in the Discord channel, which, speaking of, make sure you join the Discord channel if you haven't yet. Liberty Tonight Show hanging out with us right now, and they're going to be doing a show tonight. Make sure that you check them out right here on Rumble. You can follow them by clicking on their profile in the Rumble chat. We've raised $10 towards the $75 and $100 bonus goal today, guys. Thank you so much. We're already ahead of where we were yesterday. So keep those Rumble rants and monthly subs coming. And if we hit $75, you will unlock our bonus mini documentary. Instead of having to watch commercials today, you get to watch the mini documentary. And we'll be glad to hit the $100 level, and you guys get to see our Bald Eagle's response to Joy Reid suggesting that white men don't have culture.
There have been some absolutely major shifts. The idea that Ukraine's going to achieve complete victory, that idea has collapsed within Ukrainian society. What are we talking about here? Ukrainians on the war versus Russia. You go back to 2022, the start of the war. Fight until Ukraine wins. Look at this. The vast majority, about 3/4, 73% agreed with that position. Negotiate to end the war as soon as possible. Only 22%. Look at where we are now. It's a complete flip. It's the inverse. Now 69% want to negotiate to end the war as soon as possible, compared to just 24% who want to fight until Ukraine wins. That's a 49-point drop in this position.
There is Delulu right there. That's the right. Some people live by that worldview. Delulu might need Delulu might have earned its spot in the dictionary. So I really wonder, are dictionaries reflecting culture or are they creating it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics. You can also send me guest suggestions or just, fun memes and pictures, anything you like, at that phone number that you see at the bottom of the screen. That's 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line, and that line is open anytime, night or day. You can just chat with me and Steffi at that text line. Again, it's 573-319-1586. All right, strap in, guys, because there's one thing that I love more than Liberty. It's watching Liberty land a right hook. Let me take you to the narrow bridges of Venice, Italy. Venice. This is where the gondolas are overpriced, the gelato is amazing, and the pickpockets are abundant. But this time, the thieves picked the wrong American. Take a look at this. Look at that. Now, you can't see the pickpocket's face. But look at that mom.
You stole my purse with my passport.
Look at that.
Get her.
Oh, yeah.
Little girl, I have 8 kids. You're not getting to me.
I have 8 kids. You don't get to me.
Call them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that right there. That is a mom of 8 kids from North Carolina. She tracked down her stolen purse. Good for you, Mom. She found her purse using the AirPods Find My Friends feature, which is quite ironic. She grabbed a 14-year-old thief by the ponytail and held her. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on mute, and then I'll just continue to play it in the background so you can watch it while I'm talking here. So she grabbed a 14-year-old thief by the ponytail and held her until the police showed up. And the best part of the whole video is that when this girl screamed in her face thinking that she was going to scare this lady, this mom said, "I have 8 kids. You're not getting to me." Yes. The next move in her toolkit, I'm just a girl. Don't hurt me. Right. This isn't just parenting here. Right. This is patriotism. Hell yes. But this is not an isolated case. What you're seeing here. This is not an isolated case. At the Paris Olympics, we've talked about this on the show. Thank you, Andy Opperman, for the bonus. Wow, that takes us pretty far, actually. Plus 63 raised towards the $75 $100 bonus content goal. Hold on, let me pause it right here when she says that line. She says, "You stole my purse, my passport, and wallet." She screams at her. I want to hear her say that one more time.
You stole my purse with my passport in it.
Oh, yeah.
Little girl, I have 8 kids. You're not getting to me.
I have 8 kids. You don't get to me. That is an American. I am a real American. Okay, we'll keep that playing there. Thank you, Andy. We appreciate you, bud. Let's give it up for Andy Opperman, without whom the For Liberty Network might not exist. French pickpockets thought that they could target American tourists in Paris, but what they didn't expect was that Americans fight back. Hell yes. Ugh. You know how it makes me feel? These aren't excuse me moments, right? These are like citizen's arrest meets the ultimate fighting championship moments. So many Americans were throwing hands. If you haven't heard the story yet, I've probably talked about it 2 or 3 times, but it's just so good. So many Americans were throwing hands that the French police had to step in the Olympics and tell Americans to stop beating up the pickpockets. Now, when you're in France and the police are defending the criminals from the tourists, you know that the world is upside down. That is why Europe is going to hell in a handbasket. That is the exact mindset. This is why you can doom scroll all day. The West has fallen. America, it's fake and gay and race communism. It's cultural Marxism and all this stupid. The woke ride. The Nazis have taken over the GOP and the commies have taken over the Democratic Party. But when you see things like this from real Americans, remember, I am a real American, right? This kind of stuff is what makes me think, And our response to COVID-19, that we didn't surrender our firearms like so many other people did. They go hide. So a lot of us did hide in our homes. But when you see Miss North Carolina over here with her hand on look at this. I love this look on her face. Look at this look on her face right there. Look at her shaking her head. She's got her by the ponytails. Yeah, yeah. And you just know that if that girl had started to try and throw hands with that woman, this is a woman. Look at her. Look at her with look at her face. There's no fear in that woman's face. That's America. Where's my bald eagle screeching noise? I think I have that actually somewhere. No, I don't. I have to search. See if a voice mod. No, you didn't give me the sound effects. All right. Womp womp. I'm juggling a new soundboard for you guys where I could do all kinds of fun stuff. Let's see, magic chords. I wonder if you guys. Hello. There we are. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We're starting to add new technology to our voice. You guys probably can't even hear this. The source isn't even in this scene. What if it's in this scene? Will it play now? No, you can't hear it because it's not added to this scene either. Oh well, womp womp. But trust me, on my side, it sounds great. The voice changer. We continue to add new technology, new toys, lots of fun things to play with on the Wake Up America show. We can't promise they always work, but we are constantly seeking to upgrade your show experience and to have the Wake Up America show be the absolute most fun live news talk show 5 days a week. Most fun and most informative because the second hour of the show, we bring in three incredible guests today. We're going to have two at one time, an actual panel. Now that I have fast internet, I can do whatever I want with technology for the most part. And do live fun voices and introduce two guests at one time. At 8 o'clock this morning, we're going to have Judge Andrew Napolitano on the show. Everybody loves the judge, our favorite Italian buddy, because he would never hurt a fly because he believes in the non-aggression principle. So just make sure that you attack him first, and he will have no. And if you come at the king, you better not miss, because libertarians do believe in self-defense after you've already killed us. Non-aggression. All right. But let's talk about, back to the point, Austin, stop dithering. Let me explain the point here, right? This is not about a story about stolen wallets. This is about the difference between two civilizations, all right? One sees a crime, maybe they file a report. The other sees a crime and files a fist, right? American culture is built on frontier justice, personal responsibility, and the idea that if you mess with me or my family, I am not waiting on some bureaucrat in a reflective vest. I'm handling it. This is not toxic masculinity for any lefties who might be tuning in. This is masculinity properly applied. We have to have so many conversations lately, whether I'm speaking to left wingers or right wingers or whatever it is, right? You know how independent minded I am. About the value of American ideals and philosophy superior to European forms. I have to argue with the modern right about why America should be a constitutional republic and not a monarchy. I have to argue with the left about why America should be a constitutional republic and not a communist Marxist hellhole like what they have in South America. It's okay, Austin. You can say shit. I know. I'm not on the radio. Frontier justice. That's what's making America great. What's truly wild, though, is how the American instinct for justice were worried about being graped. And they would say, just pee on the attacker. Just pee on them. And they tried to bring that stuff to America, and women like Dana Lash were like, honey. This is, why are we a cultural anomaly? Right? Maybe part of it had to do with 9/11 as well. We're very much if somebody stands up and says on a plane and says, Durka, Durka, Muhammad Jihad, I don't care if you're praying to the east, bitch. You're going to hit the floor. Don't stand up in an airline and start shouting in Arabic. Not in front of these Americans. We've seen what happens, and we're going to trust our instincts on this one. We'll get your free speech sorted out after we figure out what's going on. We have to stop the Durka Muhammad Jihad before it can spread. Individual liberty and individual power go together. Evan Rowan, boom, with the banger. The Seiken. Jodan Ageuke. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. I'm also a karate sensei. No shit. Yeah, small town. Jefferson City. Yeah. I teach Japanese karate. I teach a little bit of self-defense. It's not, I'm not a UFC fighter. Like, I would, if I went into the ring with Sean Strickland, he would definitely beat my ass. I'm also a little bit old, but I know a thing or two about fighting. And I'll tell you this, the stance that this lady is in, I don't have to see her feet to tell that she has herself firmly planted on the ground. And the grip that she's got, I'm not saying that she's a trained professional, maybe she did some Taekwondo when she was a little bit younger, but you can see her here. The Europeans are trying, you can tell, look at the guy in the striped shirt. I mean, that is, talk about the gay Euro there. And he is just sitting there, recording everything, and people are just standing around gawking as this woman, this American woman, beautiful blonde American woman. She's had 8 kids, right? That is a mother who was at the end of her rope, but she is not going to put up with that. This is a cultural anomaly. Now I would expect if I went to another country and these girls, they're probably foreign. They come in and they're pickpockets, and they probably think that they can get away with it, and they're used to it, and they can get away with it. But imagine if you went to another country and started pickpocketing people, what would you expect to happen? What would you think that you were going to get away with? I would expect to get my ass beat. But you know what it is? It's, she was 14 years old, and so she's never been taught properly. Interesting outfits that her and maybe her sister are wearing. They're blurring out their faces because they don't want us to know their ethnicity, because they certainly don't appear, at least from what we're seeing, to be the type of people who would be natives to the region there. I have 8 kids. You don't get to me. This woman is my new hero. Let's give it up for her. Let's watch it one more time, guys, with the sound.
You stole my purse with my passport in it.
Oh, yeah.
Little girl, I have 8 kids. You're not getting to me. Call them.
Grazie, molto bene. The American instinct for justice, right? It is now a cultural anomaly that justice will be served, right? This is the world that we live in is a world that tells you to pee on yourself, ladies, if you're about to be raped. This is a world that says, just let the shoplifter walk out with the TV, let the squatters live in your house, in your private property that you spent every penny you had saved to invest in as a rental property, trying to get out of the mucks of poverty. No, let the pickpocket steal your passport. Don't make a scene, Americans, but not here. Not in the US of A. Not us. Whether it's Venice, Paris, or Peoria, we are the people who say, not today, Satan, not today. So today, I'm going to plant the flag for every mom with a ponytail grip, every tourist who has a concealed carry permit, and every American who believes that courage is contagious, because when you mess with an American, you don't get a hashtag, you get a lesson. Yeah. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. All right, so yeah, the mom tracked her down with her AirPods. Way to go. She grabbed the 14-year-old by the ponytail. The thief's accomplice, by the way, was assaulting her with a water bottle. And the mom actually ended up needing stitches, but she did get her passport back, and the girl did get arrested. Way to go, Mom. Now, this is particular interest, the particular video I was showing you was not in Paris. That was in Venice. But Paris, where the Olympics was and all the Americans were beating up all the pickpockets, Paris is ranked number 2 for pickpocketing. So 251 pickpocket incidents per million tourists. The American State Department actually issued a warning before the games about the level of pickpocketing in Paris. Why do you think, what is it, guys? I want to know, and I want to see the comments in the chat. Why do you think Americans react so differently to street crime than Europeans? Is this the ghost or the echoes of the Wild West, the frontier justice? Is that where this comes from? Is this the cowboys and Indians kind of a thing that we're seeing here? Because honestly, it just makes me proud as heck, and I love America. As you well know, I love this country quite dearly, enough to drink whiskey out of an American flag flask and to have this flag told to be put away at the American History Museum, the Smithsonian. I love reading all the stories about Trump cleaning it up. But what I want to ask for everybody, and I want you to drop your comments in the chat. Why do you think that Americans react so differently to street crime than Europeans do? And then should tourists fight back? I mean, I asked this question on my X account a few weeks ago. You know, would you fight back? If you were pickpocketed, would you beat up the pickpocket? A lot of people said no. Some of them said because I'm an old woman. Okay, understand, makes sense. But others, they just said, no, I don't want to exacerbate the situation. Would you grab the ponytail of a 14-year-old Taiwanese girl who is, and her sister is like shaking her water bottle at you and they're scratching you and screaming in your face? Would you grab that tourist ponytail and hold on to it like that? I mean, if she had my passport, honestly, probably. Yeah. You need that thing. We're a nation of tough, ornery people, says St. Selma. Y2 Joe says, yeah, I think that spirit from the 1800s on justice has been passed down via our bloodstream to modern day. I tend to agree with you. Barney Style says, if you're going to rob me, put a gun in my face like a man. Please don't. Please try and rob me without any weapons. I've been waiting my whole life for this. So the next question, should tourists fight back? Or do you think that you should follow the don't escalate advice? Let's hear the answers to that. You can also send answers if you absolutely want to have it read on air to the text line that you see on the screen, 573-319-1586. So Y2 Joe says, I'd taser the hell out of her. You would think you would, but you wouldn't have a taser in Venice, Austria, would you? I mean, would you buy one when you were there? They probably don't even sell them. They're not going to let you take it on the airline. L-Dubs says, you take in the passport, you can't slide if you want to go back home. There you go. Good point. Listeners can, again, text what they would like to have us read on air, 573-319-1586. One listener says, I'm not seeing today's podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's so juicy, it got banned. No, actually, I just forgot to upload it. By the way, don't forget to give us a 5-star review for the Wake Up America show over on Apple iTunes, and then I will upload the podcasts. Questions for the audience. Is this instinct of self-defense part of what makes America unique? Is this part of our national ethos? Is this in our bloodstream? Would you agree with our friend in the chat that this is something that was handed down? Do you think European softness towards petty crime makes their cities more dangerous? I know that it certainly makes me think twice about visiting certain locations. And here's another question. This is probably the juiciest one in the chat. Have you ever had something like this happen? Have you ever been mugged? Right? Have you ever, and maybe you confronted a thief or a scammer? Have you ever had somebody try and pickpocket your wallet? Those would be some really great comments and things like that in the chat. Quest Fanny, you lived in New York City your whole life, right? So you must have had at least one or two incidents. I mean, I lived in New York City for 6-7 years total, and there were incidents, right? People grabbing you, putting their hands on you, trying to fight you. I don't think I had somebody try and steal my stuff as much as just kind of like mess with me or, follow me home. And, I had a guy, dirty looking dude, put his hands on me in a subway and then run away. It was just absolutely disgusting. That kind of stuff sends chills down my spine just remembering how like gross some of the people are in some of these big cities. Reminds me of why I love living in Jefferson City, Missouri. Going to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches. 74 degrees here in Jefferson City, Missouri. Looks like wind gusts 15 kilometers per hour. What the hell is a kilometer? This is America. TikTok slang enters the dictionary. That's been our talking points for today, and we've been talking about Americans versus pickpockets. But as you can see, we've got tons more awesome content. You better be sticking around the whole show because we've got Judge Napolitano coming up in less than 10 minutes. And I know you guys want to see the bonus content instead of the commercials, so why don't you just go ahead and get us over the hump? We've raised $63 towards the $75 goal. And when we hit $75 raised, that unlocks the bonus content. You can watch that instead of commercials. It's way more fun to see. And today's bonus content, which if we don't unlock it, goes away forever. Today's is one that you do not want to have go away forever. Thank you to Steel Bringer because he brought the steel and the cash. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So that means we're at 64 plus 5, or 63 plus 5. So we're at $68 raised, 5, 6, 7 more dollars, and you will unlock the bonus content to watch that instead of commercials. And I know you guys want to see it. So Europeans seem to be terrified of being called a racist, says Quill Pig Parapet. I hope that Americans are more afraid of being called a coward or worse, be mistaken for a European. That's a good one. Oh, here come the good stories. Yeah, I can't wait. It's a great topic. Barney Styles says, I caught a guy stealing cassette tapes from my truck. Cassette tapes. Remember when people would steal those? Remember when people had those? And then when there were people who actually wanted to steal those? He was about to mess him up. What was this, like 1986? Barney Styles says he caught a guy. I caught a guy stealing cassette tapes from my truck. I was about to F him up, but he looked like a pitiful, scared rabbit. Just gave him a good ragdoll shake. Dang, bro.
Bow to your sensei. Bow to your sensei.
Unfolding Joker says, if you've ever slapped your alarm clock across the room and kept sleeping, causing you to be late to a great Rumble show, then go ahead and smash the Rumble, repost, follow, and share, sleepy motherfuckers. Motherfuckers. My passenger was a box of 8 tracks. 8 tracks. Liberty Tonight Show says, I had speakers stolen from my car, parked on my street. That's it for my life. Womp womp. Never been mugged, says Quest Fanning, but see the above. I'll get there, hopefully. The authorities of those countries need to look at it as a business, says Dad Bod Baboon. They need tourists and lots of American money. If the patrons feel unsafe, they'll take their money elsewhere. That's a good point. The crowd of kids parted like the Red Sea when he glanced her way and approached her. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Oh, Quest Fanning says, one time when I was a young firecracker, came too close to me and my dad, picked up a 14-year-old girl by the scruff of her shirt right under her chin. Whoa, damn, your dad did that. There you go. Jimmy Joe Patty says, Europeans came into the 20th century bowing and scraping before royalty. It took a giant war in 1914 to finally end that foolishness. Good point. Good morning, pineapples. Dadbot, he says he's never been robbed, but I constantly go outside half naked and armed with any sound I don't like. My wife hates it. Yeah. Mine does too. Dadbot, do you do that exercise where you're ready to like fight naked? You know what I'm talking about? Because that's like more than likely. You just got done refreshing the missus and, then suddenly you hear a bump in the night. You got to go out and take care of stuff. You're going to fight naked. Europe did better under monarchy, says Liberty Tonight Show. No, we need a republic everywhere, right? St. Selma says the whole reason people came to America was because they were tired of being pushed around. God bless them. They gave up everything to come here. The people who stayed in Europe were the weaklings. Good point. Well, actually, yeah, and the ones who survived the wars. All right, guys, it is time for us to go to our break. Judge Nap's going to talk about federal overreach and the Constitution when it comes to Washington, D.C., previewing his column and his excellent show, Judging Freedom. He joins us every Wednesday here on the show. I'm going to play commercials because we're like $5-6 away from unlocking the first phase of the bonus content, guys. Keep that Rumble rant, keep the Rumble rants coming. And if you'd like to visit the Grift Shop during the break, then do so. If we cross the $75 line while we're on the commercial break, then I will immediately roll tape and play the mini documentary for you all to enjoy. Today's fantastic, but if we don't unlock it, it goes away forever. And we've still got the Latin American Liberty Summit with Mailyn Salabarria and our friend Tony Martinez joining us today to talk about the Thunder from Down Under. No, not the Australian Chippendales. Javier, might as well be. Javier, Milei, and Bolivia tosses out their show Socialists on the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2. The third? Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
Americans may be drinking less than ever before. A recent poll from Gallup found that a record low share of Americans say they drink alcohol, the lowest in nearly 90 years of polling. Declines in drinking since 2023 in particular have been highest among women, Republicans, and both low-income and high-income Americans. And those who are drinking less. The average drinking respondent had only 2.8 drinks in the last 7 days, down from 4.5 a decade ago, and the lowest number in 30 years. For the first time, researchers also found that a majority of Americans believe that moderate drinking is bad for one's health. In 2018, just 28% of respondents reported that 1 or 2 drinks a day is unhealthy, but in 2025, 53% did. This perception matches with an increase in anti-drinking messaging from public health authorities. Earlier this year, then Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for putting a cancer warning on alcoholic drink containers. At first, this trend seems like an obviously good thing. Alcoholism is a destructive disease, and reducing tragic deaths from alcoholism, drunk driving, or alcohol-related cancer is certainly good news. And it is probably true that moderate drinking is bad for your health. But the thing is, the decline in overall drinking hasn't actually led to a decrease in alcohol-related deaths. Problematic drinkers are still hurting themselves and others, indicating that a decline in drinking has come not from a reduction in overdrinking, but a reduction in moderate drinking. There are reasons to want people to engage in moderate drinking, even if moderate drinking has overall negative health effects. That's because a reduction in moderate drinking probably means people are spending less time in the social environments where such drinking occurs. Less time at bars, less time at parties, less time going to restaurants with friends. A decline in light drinking could indicate a rise in social isolation, in the same way that a decline in cake sales could mean that fewer people are throwing birthday parties. A world where less drinking happens just might be one where people have fewer friends and spend more time alone. Americans are lonelier than they used to be. Between 2003 and 2024, time spent attending or hosting social events decreased by 50% among Americans aged 15 and older. According to one survey from the American Psychiatric Association last year, 1 in 3 American adults feels lonely every week. If you mostly drink socially, like me for example, opting out of drinking could be a sign that you're also opting out of social interaction. Eroding companionship can be seen in numerous odd and depressing facts of American life today, Derek Thompson wrote for The Atlantic in January. Men who watch television now spend 7 hours in front of the TV for every hour they spend hanging out with somebody outside their home. The typical female pet owner spends more time actively engaged with her pet than she spends in face-to-face contact with friends of her own species. Another way of looking at the decline in moderate drinking is a rise in a certain level of health neuroticism, enabled by rising loneliness. If you don't have good reasons to drink, no parties to go to, no invites out, it's easy to use your free time to become hyper-focused on living with minimal risks to your health. One obvious example is a lingering minority of healthy people who are still wearing masks in public and avoiding social gatherings for fear of disease. In a reply to a recent X post, one user provided the perfect example of how this kind of COVID risk aversion could drive down social drinking. Drinking in crowded bars and clubs never bothered me in my 20s, but now they make me feel kind of worried about ventilation and infection risk, the user wrote. Worth it for like a cool annual conference, not worth it just to shoot the shit on a random Friday. There's also the general sense that Americans are becoming more uptight and more puritanical. The Make America Healthy Again movement certainly seems fixated not so much on pushing Americans toward generally healthier lifestyles, laying off the full sugar Coke and DoorDash orders, and hitting the gym a few times a week, but on eliminating a battery of bad ingredients, mostly individual food additives. Already, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has moved to nix synthetic dyes from processed foods. But a bowl of Fruit Loops, even if it has beet juice and turmeric instead of Red 40, is still a sugar-packed bowl of Fruit Loops. The idea that health requires completely cutting out a few bad indulgences has long haunted diet messaging. Rather than making healthier choices that balance pleasure and health, it's common to find diet fads premised upon extremism. Depending on who you ask, health is yours, as long as you ditch gluten, cooked foods, or anything other than steak. In such an environment, it shouldn't be surprising that total abstinence is on the rise. Not only are we lonelier, we're convinced that the road to an early grave is paved with moderation. But my real suspicion here is that complaints about the health risks of alcohol are merely a cover for anxiety around the social risks present in places where alcohol is frequently consumed. Concerns about health provide a simple and hard-to-dismiss cover for a lifestyle choice born more from social isolation than anything else. Ultimately, so many things worth doing pose health risks. Riding your bike on a city street, swimming in the ocean, eating hot dogs and peach cobbler at the backyard barbecue, and taking a puff of a stranger's cigarette after a concert all pose real dangers to your health. But they are also utterly delightful. A life lived without indulging in any risks is not necessarily a life optimally lived. This summer isn't about...
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. And did you know that I'm a martial arts instructor here in Jefferson City? I teach a little karate. Tonight's Wednesday, which means tonight's fight night, back to back. If you're in the central Missouri area, if you ever find yourself out here in the wheat fields, join us on Wednesday nights. We've been talking this morning about Americans fighting back against pickpockets. I played a video of this woman who was a tourist in Vienna, and she had this pickpocket by the ponytail. Americans are made of sterner stuff. In Paris, where they have the second highest rate of pickpocketing in all of Europe, the police had to tell Americans when they came for the games, please stop beating up pickpockets. There's something about Americans, I think, maybe it's that cowboy ethos that makes us great. It makes men of stern stuff, like my next guest, the host of one of the most popular podcasts in the world, Judge Andrew Napolitano. All rise for the great Judge. Glad to see you here, Judge.
It's a pleasure, Austin. Thank you. Thank you very much. So my favorite pickpocketing story involves the patron saint of lawyers and one of my heroes, St. Thomas More. When he was a young judge, there were no juries. Criminal trials were tried by a panel of 3 judges, and pickpocketing was rampant in London at the time, and conviction required unanimity. But the chief judge of this panel of 3, to which Thomas More was assigned, believed that pickpocketing was a right, and that poor people could keep what they had pickpocketed because they were starving. More, of course, was furious because it was a violation of your natural right to retain and possess your own property. So the great St. Thomas More, the future Lord Chancellor of England, arranged for a pickpocketer to pickpocket the chief judge while on the bench. And that changed his mind on whether pickpocketers were entitled to keep what they stole.
When it happens to you, it does suddenly change people's... That's why Milton Friedman made that comment about, if somebody else takes you to dinner, you're gonna buy steak, you're gonna get everything. If if you don't have to pay the costs, let the welfare checks roll, right, Judge?
Right. I had not heard about this incident in Venice. How does it end? Surely the American was not prosecuted for pulling the pickpocketer's ponytail, was she?
No, she was not. But you could see from the faces of the Europeans and the other tourists who were there that they were quite disgusted with what was going on, maybe in general, and that could have been directed at the pickpocket perhaps. But you have to know, Judge, that there must have at least been some angst towards, some bitterness towards the American who had the audacity to defend ourselves. Because let's be honest, Judge, it is something of an anomaly, the American self-defense ethos. You don't really see that in a lot of places around the world.
Agree.
I mean, you're a world traveler.
Yeah, I am sorry to say I agree with you. Sorry to say, because the ethos is great, but it should be worldwide. It's your natural right to protect your body and your property. The police obviously can't be everywhere. I just got back from 10 days in Italy. Well, I was in Lake Como, I was in Berlin, and I was in Zurich. I don't think I saw a police official, a cop, anywhere the entire time that I was there. I didn't see any crime, and I was in lovely places, but I didn't see the police anywhere. So they obviously can't be where you need them.
We're speaking to Judge Napolitano, and Judge, somebody said in the comments, this just in, a D.C. District Court judge just charged her for assault. Judge, a little law and order in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump says that he has cleaned up that city and taken Washington, D.C. from one of the most dangerous cities. It's now one of the safest cities in just 4 days. That is quite a claim. He didn't offer any stats or data, just kind of vibes and maybe a prayer candle. But what do you say, Judge? Do you feel safer in Washington, D.C. now when you head down there for your trips?
Well, I don't feel safe when the president does things that are not authorized by the Constitution. And this president is determined to continue to do that. Yesterday, he announced he's going to sign an executive order banning the use of voting machines and mail-in ballots, even though voting in America is in the hands of the states and can only be regulated by Congress. That little thing, the Constitution, doesn't seem to trouble him. The concept of public safety was intentionally omitted by Madison when listing the powers to the federal government in Article 1 of the Constitution. Public safety was intentionally retained by the states. Not only safety, health, safety, welfare, and morality retained by the states, and that retention is codified in the 10th Amendment. So can Donald Trump take over the police in Washington, D.C.? There's a statute that says he can do that for 32 days for the purpose of aiding the feds in a federal purpose. But there is no federal purpose to public safety. It's specifically not a federal duty. So I don't feel safe when he takes over the police in D.C. and threatens to do so in Chicago, New York City, or Los Angeles. This is unfortunately typical with him and with many of his predecessors who know that the Congress will just look the other way. Congress is supine these days. All it likes to do is borrow and spend money. It doesn't give a damn about the Constitution.
Judge, this is a fascinating conversation, and because we call this big brain time, I'm about to take it into the realm of constitutional law. The U.S. Constitution's Guarantee Clause, Article 4, Section 4, mandates that the federal government ensure each state has a Republican form of government. So for the states, they are guaranteed to have some kind of form of subsidiarity. Is that what it's called? Essentially, this concept that your government that is local, you're supposed to be governed by the government that's as local as possible. So the U.S. in the Constitution guarantees to every state. But Washington, D.C. is not a state. but it did have a form of subsidiarity where the local government home rule was enacted, and from I think 1976 until today, the district was ruled by the mayor and the city council. Trump has now used emergency to overrule them, but there is no guarantee of a Republican form of government to the District of Columbia because it clearly doesn't meet Article 4, Section 4's clear mandate to guarantee to the state a Republican form of government. DC is an exception, is it not? Is that how they get out of is that how they have the wiggle room to do this?
Well, D.C. is not a state, even though it has the earmarks of a state. In 1973, Congress enacted the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, which divested Congress of its own authority to regulate D.C. and created a mayor and city council system. It gave the President of the United States limited authority to control the police department of the District of Columbia in the case of an emergency when needed for a federal purpose. Now, I don't know what the emergency is, and as I said, there's no federal purpose whatsoever in public safety because that is excluded from the feds. Prior to 1973, public safety was a federal purpose in the District of Columbia alone. The states, of course, are different. Trump used a very peculiar phrase. If this is his understanding of the Constitution, it's not only peculiar, it's warped. He referred to the states as agents of the federal government. If anything, it is the other way around. If you remember Ronald Reagan's first inaugural address, I would remind you that I'm quoting him directly now, that it was the states that created the federal government and not the other way around. Now, if I had been the Scrivener, I would have added the following line, and the power that the states gave to the federal government, they can take back. He didn't put that in there. I don't know if he agreed with it or not. Trump's view that the states are agents of the federal government is perverse, anti-constitutional, immoral, unnatural, and has no basis in law or history. It just exists in his own brain. The concept of subsidiarity was started by the Romans and codified by St. Thomas Aquinas and picked up by John Locke and Jefferson and Madison. And it teaches that because government assets are taken from the people against whom the assets are being used, the government doesn't produce wealth, it seizes wealth. The government must use the fewest assets and the least force and be closest to the problem at hand whenever it is addressing an issue, whether that issue is jaywalking or fighting a war. So it must use the least assets necessary. This is the principle of subsidiarity. This assures that the government physically closest to the people is the one with which they will most often interact. Trump, of course, rejects subsidiarity, even though it's woven into the Constitution, believes he can run the country, and if you listen to him, the world, from the Oval Office. That attitude, as I said, is repellent, anti-Madisonian, unconstitutional, has no basis in law or history.
We're speaking to Judge Napolitano. You've definitely elevated the IQ points around here this morning, Judge. We were actually talking about the new words that have been added to the Cambridge Dictionary, and your use of the words scrivener and subsidiarity have definitely increased the IQ pool, because I'm not sure if you heard, but Cambridge Dictionary this year had added a few new words. I wonder if I could just briefly read them to you, and then you just tell me if you know what they mean. Skibidi. Have you heard?
No idea.
You have no idea. Well, that's okay, because nobody knows what it means. It's just a meme word that kids have made up today that's now in the dictionary. Delulu.
No idea.
Okay, that's delusional, but you're delusional on purpose. Then you're Delulu. And the last one here I'll give you, Judge, and then I'll stop torturing you with this. Tradwife.
Tradwife.
No
idea.
No idea.
Is that the wife of a traditional Catholic?
Yeah, very good, Judge. Yes, like a traditional conservative wife, a trad wife. But this is where
that would be Justice Amy Coney Barrett and her 7 children.
Yes, exactly. Or the woman, the woman who grabbed the tourists, or the tourist who grabbed the pickpocket.
I can see her doing that. You know, when she was on the, and I don't agree with everything she does, but we went to the same law school. We had many of the same professors. She goes to mass every day. She has 7 children. When I don't know if she does this now because she has U.S. Marshals to protect her. But when she was on the 7th Circuit, which is the U.S. Court of Appeals for Illinois and Michigan and that part of the country, it sits in Chicago, she carried a Glock.
Good for her.
Good for her is right.
Judge, do you think you could get a permit to carry in New York City if you wanted to? John Stossel couldn't get one. I don't know if you remember his segment from several years ago where he tried.
Well, now the law has changed radically. New York now has a regulation that requires the police to issue permits to out-of-state people. So you can get it as easily here as in New Jersey.
Wow. So you could
shocking, carry. But kicking and screaming, they complied with the Bruin decision. Now, what they have done, which is insidious, is they have taken chunks of Manhattan and made them gun-free zones. And the chunks of Manhattan are where you'd most want to be able to carry a gun, like where the Fox building is, Times Square, where schools are. So people who can carry are fearful that step across the street and you're breaking the law because there's no sign telling you where the gun-free zone is. The gun-free zones are killing zones. They're the most dangerous place on earth. So advertise to criminals it's a gun-free zone. You think they're going to obey that. Nevertheless, a federal judge invalidated the gun-free zones. The 2nd Circuit Court of Appeals reversed that invalidation. The Supreme Court refused to hear the case. So the gun-free zones are still around here. Only the police know what they are.
The Supreme Court has really held back from many major gun decisions since the Chicago versus McDonald case. They've been turning them away. And so
the main case is Bruin. That's Bruin. After Chicago. That's the one that's the right to carry. What you mean is they have allowed these exceptions to the right to carry without interfering with them. It's very disappointing. Very disappointing.
It is. It's very disappointing, Judge. And in New York City, and I know this was when I lived there, so this was in 2010 to 2012, it was if you were caught with a firearm that was unlicensed, then you would have received a mandatory minimum of, I believe, 5 to 7 years in New York City. No questions asked. They just throw the book at you.
Yes, I don't think that's the law anymore. Now the law is, it's like being stopped for speeding and you don't have your driver's license with you. You have a driver's license. You don't physically have it with you. So once you produce the driver's license, then they charge you with a much lower offense, which is failure to display the license. I believe the same is now the case for the gun. They'll take the gun away from you until you show up at the police station with the appropriate paperwork. Remember, you need 2. You need the permit to own and then the license to carry.
In Missouri, we have permitless carry, so I don't need a concealed carry permit to do concealed or open carry. But in New York, you would still require a license from a reciprocal state. In order for me to carry in New York City, then I would still have to have a concealed carry license permit from Missouri in order to carry in New York, right?
No, you need a concealed carry permit from New York City. New York City does not recognize, notwithstanding the full faith and credit clause of the Constitution, it'll recognize your Missouri driver's license. You can drive here, but it will not recognize your Missouri carry license. Trump keeps claiming that he will sign a reciprocal carry statute into existence. It's been hovering somewhere under Mike Johnson's feet in the House of Representatives for a couple of months. Only when he thinks he's going to lose his speakership will he let it come to the floor for a vote. I'm not a fan, as you can imagine.
I can tell.
Now, and New York and New Jersey are concealed carry. So you must wear clothing over or something over the weapon so that it is not visible to people around you.
Fascinating. One day, Judge, hopefully New York and New Jersey may be free. Thank you so much for all you do, Judge, because I know your time is so valuable. You're on Newsmax, you've got your own show, you're on everyone else's show in the world, and you give every Wednesday at 8 a.m., you give us 20 to 25 minutes of your time. I want to give you a chance to give us a sneak preview of who you have coming up on your excellent show, Judging Freedom, before you've got to run.
I have Max Blumenthal, who's the country's foremost authority on what the Israelis are doing. I have Pepe Escobar, the great international investigative journalist. And tomorrow I have, just back from 10 days in Russia, Scott Ritter, who met with everybody below Vladimir Putin, including my friend Sergei Lavrov.
We'll be watching Judge Napolitano's Judging Freedom podcast. You can download on any mobile device. Judge, again, thank you for being so generous with your very valuable time, and you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Austin. All the best to you.
Thank you very much. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Everyone say thanks to the judge. We're grateful for his time. The Latin American Liberty Summit coming up next. Guys, we unlocked phase 1 of the bonus content. We're so close to phase 2. When we hit phase 2, we are going to see a special message from our national symbol, the bald eagle, will be joining us today. That's if we hit $100 raised. We're at $77 raised now, but by the end of the show, if we raise $100 either in Rumble Rants or in purchases from the shop, then we are going to hear from our national symbol. The national bird will land in the studio to deliver a special message, and he has got you, and you guys are going to flip. You're going to love this. He's got a message for Joy Reid. Yes. Joy Reid is now claiming that Trump, Elvis, and every white conservative man is just a mediocre thief stealing culture from black and brown people.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
But I'm not going to respond. I'm going to let the national bird respond with facts, feathers, and a little hot sauce on the side. So keep those Rumble Rants coming. And if you want to just get it all knocked out of the park, head over to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Head to thegriftshop.com. Unlock the second phase of the bonus content. Hear from the American Eagle screech, "I am a real American." When we come back, we'll hear from our friends Mailyn Salabarria and Tony Martinez to talk to us today about liberty in Latin America. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Americans may be drinking less than ever before. A recent poll from Gallup found that a record low share of Americans say they drink alcohol, the lowest in nearly 90 years of polling. Declines in drinking since 2023 in particular have been highest among women, Republicans, and both low-income and high-income Americans. And those who are drinking less. The average drinking respondent had only 2.8 drinks in the last 7 days, down from 4.5 a decade ago, and the lowest number in 30 years. For the first time, researchers also found that a majority of Americans believe that moderate drinking is bad for one's health. In 2018, just 28% of respondents reported that 1 or 2 drinks a day is unhealthy, but in 2025, 53% did. This perception matches with an increase in anti-drinking messaging from public health authorities. Earlier this year, then Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for putting a cancer warning on alcoholic drink containers. At first, this trend seems like an obviously good thing. Alcoholism is a destructive disease, and reducing tragic deaths from alcoholism, drunk driving, or alcohol-related cancer is certainly good news. And it is probably true that moderate drinking is bad for your health. But the thing is, the decline in overall drinking hasn't actually led to a decrease in alcohol-related deaths. Problematic drinkers are still hurting themselves and others, indicating that a decline in drinking has come not from a reduction in overdrinking, but a reduction in moderate drinking. There are reasons to want people to engage in moderate drinking, even if moderate drinking has overall negative health effects. That's because a reduction in moderate drinking probably means people are spending less time in the social environments where such drinking occurs. less time at bars, less time at parties, less time going to restaurants with friends. A decline in light drinking could indicate a rise in social isolation, in the same way that a decline in cake sales could mean that fewer people are throwing birthday parties. A world where less drinking happens just might be one where people have fewer friends and spend more time alone. Americans are lonelier than they used to be. Between 2003 and 2024, time spent attending or hosting social events decreased by 50% among Americans aged 15 and older. According to one survey from the American Psychiatric Association last year, 1 in 3 American adults feels lonely every week. If you mostly drink socially, like me for example, opting out of drinking could be a sign that you're also opting out of social interaction. Eroding companionship can be seen in numerous odd and depressing facts of American life today, Derek Thompson wrote for The Atlantic in January. Men who watch television now spend 7 hours in front of the TV for every hour they spend hanging out with somebody outside their home. The typical female pet owner spends more time actively engaged with her pet than she spends in face-to-face contact with friends of her own species. Another way of looking at the decline in moderate drinking is a rise in a certain level of health neuroticism, enabled by rising loneliness. If you don't have good reasons to drink, no parties to go to, no invites out, it's easy to use your free time to become hyper-focused on living with minimal risks to your health. One obvious example is a lingering minority of healthy people who are still wearing masks in public and avoiding social gatherings for fear of disease. In a reply to a recent X post, one user provided the perfect example of how this kind of COVID risk aversion could drive down social drinking. Drinking in crowded bars and clubs never bothered me in my 20s, but now they make me feel kind of worried about ventilation and infection risk, the user wrote. Worth it for like a cool annual conference, not worth it just to shoot the shit on a random Friday. There's also the general sense that Americans are becoming more uptight and more puritanical. The Make America Healthy Again movement certainly seems fixated not so much on pushing Americans toward generally healthier lifestyles, laying off the full sugar Coke and DoorDash orders, and hitting the gym a few times a week, but on eliminating a battery of bad ingredients, mostly individual food additives. Already, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has moved to nix synthetic dyes from processed foods. But a bowl of Fruit Loops, even if it has beet juice and turmeric instead of Red 40, is still a sugar-packed bowl of Fruit Loops. The idea that health requires completely cutting out a few bad indulgences has long haunted diet messaging. Rather than making healthier choices that balance pleasure and health, it's common to find diet fads premised upon extremism. Depending on who you ask, health is yours, as long as you ditch gluten, cooked foods, or anything other than steak. In such an environment, it shouldn't be surprising that total abstinence is on the rise. Not only are we lonelier, we're convinced that the road to an early grave is paved with moderation. But my real suspicion here is that complaints about the health risks of alcohol are merely a cover for anxiety around the social risks present in places where alcohol is frequently consumed. Concerns about health provide a simple and hard-to-dismiss cover for a lifestyle choice born more from social isolation than anything else. Ultimately, so many things worth doing pose health risks. Riding your bike on a city street, swimming in the ocean, eating hot dogs and peach cobbler at the backyard barbecue, and taking a puff of a stranger's cigarette after a concert all pose real dangers to your health. But they are also utterly delightful. A life lived without indulging in any risks is not necessarily a life optimally lived.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. I cannot wait to introduce you to my next two guests. This is a very special segment, especially because these are becoming two of my fastest, bestest friends, and we've only met in recent weeks and in recent years. Tony Martinez is a foreign policy expert, a seasoned New York attorney. Mailyn Salabarria is a Cuban expat. She fled to the United States, and she's a lawyer herself now, but a lawyer for liberty, to talk about what's happening in Latin America and how that affects American politics here stateside. Good morning to Mailyn and Tony. Welcome to the Wake Up America show.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Good morning, Austin.
Glad to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining us here. When I saw this story, I was like, I have to talk to you guys both. So I was like, let's get you both at the same time. first to Mailyn, your reaction to Bolivia kicking out their socialist party. Tiny percentage of people voted for the socialists in Bolivia. Are we seeing a trend here? Give us your take, and then we'll go to Tony.
I think it's like the greatest and most hopeful news that I have heard from Latin America in the last few months. I think it was like a superb knockout punch to the socialist toys that have been destroying Latin America for decades now. And I think it is a step into the right direction. Definitely news that have had freedom-loving, market-oriented people from Latin America into a very hopeful spirit. As of this news came out, I mean, only 3% of the votes went to the MAS party, which is the socialist party that Evo Morales have been clinging on for the last 20 years. So definitely great news.
Tony, we're also seeing in Ecuador, Daniel Noboa. He's kind of another chainsaw economist, right? Slashing bureaucracy, turning heads. Is this a fluke, Tony, or could this be a trend?
No, this is absolutely a trend because the people have learned that in Latin America that socialism does not work. And all you have to look at is what just happened, Bolivia, and if you look at Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, if they had free elections in those countries, their governments would be kicked out on their butts yesterday. They don't have the guts to allow those elections because, like, they love power. Socialism is great for these guys. It's all for the people who are in power, but for everybody else is worse off, not better off.
Mailyn, you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, what is happening with big government and socialist collectivist countries in Latin America, like I said before, for many years, is the real life representation of the story of the book Animal Farm. Yes, socially it's very good, and they portray that everybody's equal. The only thing that any form of socialism and collectivism has achieved in the history of mankind is the equal redistribution of misery, poverty, repression, and despair. And people are sick and tired of it. I absolutely agree with it.
Tony, we all know that I am a Javier Milei fangirl, confirmed. I can't stop talking about the guy, even though
me too.
Even people who know me and love me and are also libertarians are like, Austin, I can just tone it down a little bit. But it's just, for too long, people who have the same sort of immigration views that people like yourself and myself hold, who hold the free market economic views, who look fondly at the legacy of Ronald Reagan and aren't trying to kick him out like the current Republican Party seems to be doing. We have not seen any kind of green shoots of hope until very recently, because isn't it the case, Tony, that what happens in Latin America tends to migrate and make its way north?
Yes, absolutely. And just I have to say, since you mentioned President Reagan, I always feel fortunate and blessed that I got to meet him. I got to shake his hand. I actually met him when I graduated from high school, and I still have my Ronald Reagan presidential pen that was given to me. So yeah, it's unfortunate the Republican Party is kind of forgetting that part. But yeah, what's happening in South America, thank God for Javier Milei, because remember how we connected. I had gone to Argentina just before the elections, and I was working with, and rest in peace, the late Governor Bill Richardson, who was a master negotiator. He wrote a great book, and I recommend it to the audience, is How to Sweet Talk a Shark, because he knew how to deal with very difficult people, dictators, autocrats, communists, and he was successful in doing something pretty incredible, which is getting hostages and political prisoners freed. But getting back to your point, yes, there is an awakening. I mean, people are just basically fed up with socialism and the fraud and the corruption that's happened in all over Latin America. And there's a kind of a cleaning up that's taking place. So, and it's not over.
Mailyn, are you also seeing a trend here in Bolivia, or is this something that you think could fizzle out quickly?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I agree that it's a trend. Again, it's not going to happen probably by the book of the, classical liberals or libertarians, Puritans that were used to debate and talk to from the American lens and from the American standard. It's important to understand the historical, cultural, and socio-political background of Latin America to understand the importance of this, how incrementalism could be a game changer, and how these baby steps into veering away from big government, from collectivism, could make a big change, not only for those countries and those societies, but also for the economic and the political impact in the region, and like you said, everything that transpires into the United States. So yes, it is absolutely a trend. It is a very hopeful trend, and let's just cross fingers and hope that it keeps, having that domino effect into the rest of the countries that we know that are still under the yoke of socialism.
Mailyn, you were talking to me you were telling me what you wanted to discuss today, and you were talking about technology kind of playing a role in this come to Jesus moment. Can you speak to that real quickly?
Yes, I think that when you think about how many years communist and socialist government have been in power in places like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, technology has played a huge role. Number one, in having a quick access, being a tool of quick access of information for the average person in Latin America. If you think about it, any individual in the world today is walking with a computer in their hands when we have this. So there is no excuse not to receive, immediate information right away. And the second part is that same tool of technology provides a vast world of education, that when the person wants to seek information and educate themselves in any topic, being politics, elections, you name it, is also at our disposal. We don't have that in Cuba. It's not only I'm using obviously the example of Cuba because it's the one that I, sadly know very well. It's an island that geographically speaking is a giant prison. And then when these collectivist socialist governments use the censorship to block technology, that's one of the things, or one of the tools they use to stay in power for so long. So nowadays, when we think about how fast technology is developing, how fast and easy people can connect in ways that I couldn't do 24 years ago when I was still in Cuba, yes, I do believe that it has played a big role into all the information and all the awakening that people in Latin America are having today.
Tony, do you think that Americans underestimate just how messy and how incremental freedom building really is in the region? We were born into it, but for them, it's kind of like reinventing the wheel in some ways.
Yes, I mean, the greatest threats to this movement of liberty is really the corruption, because it's a reality. Nepotism and the corruption of the sort of the pay to play, it's there. And we also have the influence of the drug cartels, which really also make it difficult to create the conditions for economic development, and those are challenges that have to be met head on. But the other alternative is to have another Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. We can't go down that path.
Mailyn, one of the big criticisms that American libertarians and some people, some right-wingers in America, is that Javier Milei is extremely close to the government of Israel, and they criticize him for his relationship with the state of Israel, and they question whether or not he has some form of dual loyalty. How do you respond to those kinds of accusations?
I think that I am not by any means, a foreign policy expert, let alone in the specifics of Israel. But I think, in my view, it falls under this same line of thought from American. Either conservative, libertarians, you name it. People born and raised under the concept of the American founding, they think and they look at everything that is either my way or the highway. And it's not like that. It doesn't work like that in places like Latin America. And then when you're able to get down off that high horse and analyze and put yourself in the shoes of someone that is trapped in one of those failed societies or countries right now, for us, It's a hope. It might not be perfect. It might not be the end goal, but it's a hope. And what Javier Milei is doing in Argentina is just one example of that trend, of that steamrolling dominoes effect that we were mentioning earlier. For people that use whether it's Israel or any other excuse that we use to judge by American standards what is happening in other countries, I have a very simple question, Austin, is have you looked around you on the tax plantation where you live lately? Like, get down off the high horse and tell me what have you accomplished to reach each one of those pure requirements and principles right here in our country in America before you go into judge what somebody else is trying to do as a baby step to crawl themselves out of the disaster that they have been for decades.
Tony, do you want to respond to that?
I would just simply say two things on this, is that Javier Milei, and I've been with him in the same room, but I haven't had the opportunity. I look forward to that opportunity someday. He is a spiritual man, and he connected with Judaism. And whether you agree with Judaism or not, he is also showing us something else that's important as people. He's connecting to a higher power, a higher authority. And this is critical, because what these socialists and people want is people to forget about their connections to the Creator, to the Almighty. They want everybody to believe in the state, because these socialist politicians want to replace the divinity and the things that we've been given by our Creator, and that we learn through spirituality and through religion. So, I don't have any issue with
Mailyn, it is a feature of communism to destroy religion and people's ability to practice because they don't worship the state, correct?
Of course. I mean, I am the poster child of that. I was born and raised in communist Cuba and left at age 27. You want a short story? I got baptized at age 31 here in the United States in a joint ceremony with my oldest son. You know why? Because my parents passed on to me the tradition of baptism and all the religious, mostly Catholic traditions that we have in Latin America. They would have been reported to the political police and they would have been fired from their jobs. I am the generation of Cubans that grew up seeing my grandmother having her Bible and her Jesus images inside a closet. They could not hang it in a picture in the walls or the living room or anything like that, because then the political police or the committees for the defense of the revolution will walk in and they would be reported. So yes, of course, guess what? There is nothing new under the sun. Divide and conquer, and the state doesn't like competition. And they doesn't like our brain thinking into something else. They want to totally capture our brain, our thinking power, our free will, so we can fall for the fallacy of believing that the party and the state is our Lord and Savior. And guess what? It's not like that. So that's why, whether it's the case of Milei or any other, would you have, like Tony was saying, a connection with a higher spirit? That's what free will is. That's what individual freedom is. You might not like it. Nobody's forcing you to follow it or agree with it, but you don't have the right to use the force of the state to block me from doing it either. So it's very simple.
Tony, we're going to go ahead and close it up. This has been a fantastic conversation with Tony Martinez and Mailyn Salabarria, our Latin American Liberty Summit. I was jealous of all my friends who were in Argentina last week for their actual in-person Liberty Summit, so we had to sort of recreate it here with our excellent speakers. Tony, I'll go ahead and give you your last word, and then we'll hear from Mailyn, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you again, Austin. Un gusto conocerte, Mailyn. And
igualmente.
And anyone who follow me on Twitter at US Latam Envoy, LATAMENVOY. And looking forward to being on the show again. And we got to talk about our Argentina trip.
We got to do a Liberty tour to Argentina. But yeah, we also want to hit up Boston because the 250th anniversary. Mailyn, anything else that you would like to share with our audience? Any points on this you think we might have missed, or any plugs you'd like to make before we go?
I would like to just kind of like, circle back to the whole news about Bolivia. And I would like to encourage people to be cautiously optimistic and also keep in the back of your mind how getting Bolivia out of 20 years of failed collectivism and corrupt socialism can be a huge critical turning point of the economy in the region. We already have Paraguay with President Peña that has been, since 2023, a very limited government, free market oriented economy, very stable, very pro investments and economic growth. We have Milei with all the process and reforms doing in Argentina, granted after so many decades of socialist corrupted disaster there, it might take longer. And now we have Paraguay on that trifecta. I think that we need to keep an eye on it, because the minute that Bolivia moves into a free market economy where they mirror and create an axis of freedom and economic boom in that region, is going to be a game changer for the entire South American area. And obviously, it could even prompt that domino effect into other places like Colombia, like Peru, and hopefully at the end of the entire game, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are going to be out of the game too.
I think Mailyn Salabarria would definitely kick a pickpocket's ass. She's got some attitude. Tony Martinez, Mailyn Salabarria, thank you for participating in our very first Latin American Liberty Summit. We'll have to do it again sometime. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
They can't fix the history they did. Their ancestors made this country into a slave hell. But they can clean it up now because they got the Smithsonian. They can get rid of all the slavery stuff. They got PragerU. They can lie about the history to the children. They can't originally invent anything more than they ever were able to invent good music. We black folk gave y'all country music, hip hop, R&B, jazz, rock and roll. They couldn't even invent that, but they have to call a white man the king, because they couldn't make rock and roll. So they have to stamp the king on a man whose main song was stolen from an overweight black woman.
Joy Reid had the nerve to come after the king and say that Elvin was more black than I am.
All right, Patriots, as promised, it's time for your bonus content unlock. And today, we've got something extra majestic. We're going to go overtime, that's for sure. Joy Reid spends her airtime calling Trump, Elvis, and every other white conservative male a mediocre thief of other cultures. When she says America has no culture of its own, just Cracker Barrel and Kid Rock, well, folks, we had to respond, but not just with facts, with talons. Now in an exclusive broadcast from a mountaintop somewhere above the Rockies, please rise, remove your hat, and be patient as we move our way up into the mountaintops. We have to get our cameras ready. Welcome the most freedom-loving life form to ever shred through a socialist manifesto with its beak. When we get back from the brief little break, we will hear from the American bald eagle.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Wake up, America. All right. I am the American Bald Eagle. Greetings, citizen. I come to you not as a symbol, but as a witness. Fraud. Joy Reid, you called the founders, slavers, and the Constitution a cleanup job. You even wore a hat for the 1619 Project, the fiction that says America began in chains, not in courage. Let's set the record straight, featherweight. On the first question, that white men have no culture. Have you ever heard of electricity? Yeah, that's white guy. Nikola Tesla. The light bulb? Edison. The automobile? Benz and Ford. The Constitution? Madison. The space race? Werner von Braun. The internet that you're using to spread that nonsense? Berners-Lee. And the only reason, Joy Reid, you get to talk freely without being carted off by the thought police is because a bunch of powdered wig-wearing white dudes wrote it into a law. Culture? You want culture? Try Beethoven. Hemingway, Frank Capra, L. Frank Baum, Norman Rockwell, Mark Twain, Johnny Cash, country music, jazz collaboration, not theft, rock and roll, where, yes, Elvis credited his influences, unlike your network work, which plagiarizes history and calls it progress. On your second point, they can't create, only steal. Joy, your argument is like a tofu hot dog. No meat, all packaging. You said without black and brown people, there's no culture in America. Let me be clear. America is built by everyone, and that includes Irish coal miners, German engineers, Polish farmers, Scandinavian loggers, Scottish frontiersmen, and yes, African slaves who were brutally forced into that system and still contributed. But what you're teaching, Joy, it's not equality, it's resentment in drag. You're not honoring anyone, you're erasing half the country so you can feel taller in your own echo chamber. On your third point, on the Smithsonian and the cleaning up of history, Trump wants to restore American pride at the Kennedy Center. He wants to fix the Smithsonian so it celebrates achievement, not endless grievance. And your response is to cry, erasure. No, Joy, you're not mad they're erasing history. You're mad they're correcting your fake version of it. America has sins, yes, but it also has redemption. Slavery ended because white men fought and died by the hundreds of thousands to free those black slaves. Because Jim Crow ended because conservative Christians and black civil rights leaders stood arm in arm. And freedom expanded not because of your CRT lectures, but because of courage, faith, family, and yes, the men that you would call mediocre. And your fourth point on Kid Rock and Cracker Barrel. Kid Rock's from Detroit. Cracker Barrel serves half the country. If that's your idea of white culture, maybe you're just upset your politics can't fill a parking lot without union goons and free donuts. Meanwhile, our side built Ford, Boeing, Apple, NASA, the Constitution, the moon landing. Some think. Not Candace Owens, and freedom of the press, so that you can mock the very system that protects you. That's not mediocrity. That is magnificence. And number 5, what America actually is. This country is not divided by race. It's divided by gratitude versus grievance, by builders versus beggars, by makers versus takers, by people who say, I will rise, versus those who say, I am owed. You can keep your 1619 project. I've got 1776 burned into my feathers. You can keep FDT. I've got a talon ready to defend free speech, even yours. You can keep crying about the past. I'll keep soaring toward a freer future. Because I'm not mediocre. I'm not stolen, and I'm not ashamed. I'm the American bald eagle. And Joy, if you ever need a reminder of what freedom sounds like, well, there it is.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I just got a history lesson and a spiritual awakening delivered by a raptor. That's the kind of bonus content you don't get on CNN, folks. All right. So thank you for unlocking it, guys. We don't do these segments to be mean. We do them to defend truth, dignity, and the real story of our country. We don't steal culture. We're building it. We don't erase history. We honor it. And we sure as hell don't take lectures from overpaid network hosts who think patriotism is a punchline, right? So to our bald eagle, thank you. And to everyone who unlocked that segment with a Rumble rant or a purchase at the Grift Shop, you made this possible. Thank you. That's our show today, from Skibidi dictionaries to ponytail justice, from Judge Nap to Milei's libertarian chainsaw. And of course, the bald eagle who just made Joy Reid go Delulu with no Solulu. We'll be back tomorrow. Same freedom time, same freedom channel. Until then, stand tall, speak truth, and never, ever, ever apologize for liberty. I'm Austin Petersen, and this is Wake Up America.
Less than ever before. A recent poll from Gallup found that a record low share of Americans say they drink alcohol, the lowest in nearly 90 years of polling. Declines in drinking since 2023 in particular have been highest among women, Republicans, and both low-income and high-income Americans. And those who are drinking less. The average drinking respondent had only 2.8 drinks in the last 7 days, down from 4.5 a decade ago, and the lowest number in 30 years. For the first time, researchers also found that a majority of Americans believe that moderate drinking is bad for one's health. In 2018, just 28% of respondents reported that 1 or 2 drinks a day is unhealthy, but in 2025, 53% did. This perception matches with an increase in anti-drinking messaging from public health authorities. Earlier this year, then Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for putting a cancer warning on alcoholic drink containers. At first, this trend seems like an obviously good thing. Alcoholism is a destructive disease, and reducing tragic deaths from alcoholism, drunk driving, or alcohol-related cancer is certainly good news. And it is probably true that moderate drinking is bad for your health. But the thing is, the decline in overall drinking hasn't actually led to a decrease in alcohol-related deaths. Problematic drinkers are still hurting themselves and others, indicating that a decline in drinking has come not from a reduction in overdrinking, but a reduction in moderate drinking. There are reasons to want people to engage in moderate drinking, even if moderate drinking has overall negative health effects. That's because a reduction in moderate drinking probably means people are spending less time in the social environments where such drinking occurs. Less time at bars, less time at parties, less time going to restaurants with friends. A decline in light drinking could indicate a rise in social isolation, in the same way that a decline in cake sales could mean that fewer people are throwing birthday parties. A world where less drinking happens just might be one where people have fewer friends and spend more time alone. Americans are lonelier than they used to be. Between 2003 and 2024, time spent attending or hosting social events decreased by 50% among Americans aged 15 and older. According to one survey from the American Psychiatric Association last year, 1 in 3 American adults feels lonely every week. If you mostly drink socially, like me for example, opting out of drinking could be a sign that you're also opting out of social interaction. Eroding companionship can be seen in numerous odd and depressing facts of American life today, Derek Thompson wrote for The Atlantic in January. Men who watch television now spend 7 hours in front of the TV for every hour they spend hanging out with somebody outside their home. The typical female pet owner spends more time actively engaged with her pet than she spends in face-to-face contact with friends of her own species. Another way of looking at the decline in moderate drinking is a rise in a certain level of health neuroticism, enabled by rising loneliness. If you don't have good reasons to drink, no parties to go to, no invites out, it's easy to use your free time to become hyper-focused on living with minimal risks to your health. One obvious example is a lingering minority of healthy people who are still wearing masks in public and avoiding social gatherings for fear of disease. In a reply to a recent X post, one user provided the perfect example of how this kind of COVID risk aversion could drive down social drinking. Drinking in crowded bars and clubs never bothered me in my 20s, but now they make me feel kind of worried about ventilation and infection risk, the user wrote. Worth it for like a cool annual conference, not worth it just to shoot the shit on a random Friday. There's also the general sense that Americans are becoming more uptight and more puritanical. The Make America Healthy Again movement certainly seems fixated not so much on pushing Americans toward generally healthier lifestyles, laying off the full sugar Coke and DoorDash orders, and hitting the gym a few times a week, but on eliminating a battery of bad ingredients, mostly individual food additives. Already, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has moved to nix synthetic dyes from processed foods. But a bowl of Fruit Loops, even if it has beet juice and turmeric instead of Red 40, is still a sugar-packed bowl of Fruit Loops. The idea that health requires completely cutting out a few bad indulgences has long haunted diet messaging. Rather than making healthier choices that balance pleasure and health, it's common to find diet fads premised upon extremism. Depending on who you ask, health is yours, as long as you ditch gluten, cooked foods, or anything other than steak. In such an environment, it shouldn't be surprising that total abstinence is on the rise. Not only are we lonelier, we're convinced that the road to an early grave is paved with moderation. But my real suspicion here is that complaints about the health risks of alcohol are merely a cover for anxiety around the social risks present in places where alcohol is frequently consumed. Concerns about health provide a simple and hard-to-dismiss cover for a lifestyle choice born more from social isolation than anything else. Ultimately, so many things worth doing pose health risks. Riding your bike on a city street, swimming in the ocean, eating hot dogs and peach cobbler at the backyard barbecue, and taking a puff of a stranger's cigarette after a concert all pose real dangers to your health. But they are also utterly delightful. A life lived without indulging in any risks is not necessarily a life optimally lived.